Hello and welcome students. Welcome to your social studies class. In the previous class we had discussed about the different trade wars which were happened in India or between the Britishers and the different kingdoms. In this trade wars we had discussed about the direct warfare. Now in today's video we are going to start with the next topic, that is subsidiary alliance. In the previous class we had already discussed about mercantilism, trade wars, the different battles between Indians and the Britishers. Now in today's video we are going to start with the subsidiary alliances. So basically subsidiary alliances, uh, we are going to start in today's topic. As in this particular point we are talking about the alliances means uh, to work with the different kingdoms to make an independent army with having a direct control over them. Basically, in the subsidiary alliances, Indian rulers has been accepted uh, the system which were maintained by Britishers, and uh, they were controlled by Britishers, and the rules were which were made by Britishers were imposed in their states. So basically, in the English East India Company, there were so much corruption has been increased, and because of that, um, they want to decided the British government decided to establish more direct control over India. So it becomes a profitable colony. In 1773, Warren Hastings was sent to India as the representative of British government. He became the Governor General, first Governor General. So that name is Warren Hastings. He was the first Governor General of India. With the backing of British government, new strategic management were devised to bring different parts of India. Basically, in this time period, different new strategic methods has been established, and which were devised to bring different parts of India. Basically, these different strategies were made for the purpose of control over the India, to have direct control over the India, and these strategic methods has been imposed in the different parts of India. One of these was the strategy subsidiary alliances adopted by Richard Wellesley, Governor General of India, in between in 1798 and 1805. He was the General, that is Richard Wellesley. You can see the picture of Richard Wellesley, that is Lord Wellesley. He is also known as Lord Richard Wellesley. He was the Governor General of India in between 1798 to 1805. Basically, in this subsidiary alliances, few things are there. Indian rulers who accepted the system had to maintain British troops in their states. That means they have to maintain some British troops in their states with their own troops. They are unable to do so. Their territory was ceded to the Britishers. If they are not doing such thing, their territory is going to be ceded with the Britishers. The troops in turn would protect the ruler against attacks from other states and internal disturbance. Basically, these troops were settled for the purpose of uh, protection of the ruler against the attacks from the different other states, and for their internal disturbance, uh, and for that thing they have to pay some money, and they have to pay some revenue to the Britishers. The Indian rulers, on their part, could not fight wars, sign treaties, or maintain diplomatic relations with the other Indian states and foreign powers without the consent of the British. Basically, those Indian rulers who are not been able to fight wars against them, they have to sign treaties with the different uh, different other Indian states, and they have to choose a diplomatic state or diplomatic uh, site for the purpose of maintaining the relations with the other kings and other states. A British officer called a resident was stationed at the court of the ruler. Basically, one person from the Britisher were appointed for the purpose of uh, one British person is appointed and were settled in the court of the ruler. Some of the states that joined this alliance, Awadh and Hyderabad in the Maratha states, most of the Rajput states, Cochin, Travancore and Mysore, the British benefited from such an alliance as they could maintain a large army at the expense of the local ruler. Basically, the Britishers gained a lot of things from this subsidiary alliance. They have to expend a lesser amount, and they have to expend um, in in the in another sense, they don't have to expand, they just have to provide safety to the rulers from other states, and they got their they got their big army instead of providing any money, any expenditure for the purpose of creating troops. So this was the subsidiary alliances. Though the Indian rulers gained security, they lost their independence. But due to these subsidiary alliances, Indian rulers got, although Indian rulers got safety from other states, but they have to sacrifice their independence. They are not able to make their own decisions, and there were a lot of interference of the Britishers in the administrations of their own uh, administration of their territory. Uh, the Britishers has been forced the rulers to increase the taxes, so the revenue of the Britishers will also tends to increase. As a result, they were unable to administrate the state effectively. So, because of continuous interference, the local rulers, are not been able to uh, rule or administrate the state properly and effectively. So, this is the subsidiary alliance. The next thing is doctrine of lapse. Basically, doctrine of lapse was the third major policy, or third major, we can say, the strategy of the Britishers. The in this doctrine of lapse, basically, it is the most controversial policy which was adopted by the Britishers to expand their empire in India, was the doctrine of lapse. Basically, this policy is made by the Lord Governor by Governor Lord Dalhousie. Basically, Governor General Dalhousie has made this um doctrine of lapse, this policy he has adopted. He is the, so look at this picture, he is the Lord Dalhousie. So he has made he has adopted the policy of uh, doctrine of lapse. In this doctrine of lapse, if a ruler passed away, the kingdom passed down to his there or her higher. If there were no legal hire, if no natural hire were there, and they were, if therefore uh, any adopted child were there, it was not accepted as the ruler of that empty throne. Basically, if there were no natural heir to that throne, the throne is easily passed to the British government. So you can see during the year 1856, when Lord Dalhousie was the Governor General of India, you can see the state of British territory in India. The green portion is showing the British territory, and the there were a lot of British territory, a lot of Indian state is covered with British territory. At the southern part, in the eastern part, and northern part, northeast part, basically a lot of area were covered by the Britishers. So we are moving to our topic, that is doctrine of lapse. With the doctrine of lapse, however, adopted heirs were no longer recognized by the Britishers as the rightful successor. One incident was happened in the um, state of Jhansi. Uh, in the Jhansi, there were no any legal hire, that is natural hire of the uh, king of Jhansi. So the king of Jhansi has to relinquish the throne to the Britishers. But Rani Lakshmibai refuses, and then after the battle begins against the Britishers. That means then after the freedom fighter, the war for freedom were started in the year 1857. So this was the policies which was taken under by the Britishers. Now moving to the next topic, that is administration under the East India Company. As territories under British control increased, the English East India Company found it increasingly difficult to manage them. So with the guidance of the British government, certain administrative policies were adopted, which has two main aims: maintaining and strengthening their hold in India and maximizing profit. Basically, uh, in India, the British control a larger lot of part of India. British controlled. Uh, Britishers are increasing their control over the India. But they are difficult to manage their territory. So, with the guidance of the British government, they followed some policies. They have to adopt some policies for the purpose of maintaining and strengthening their hold in India, as well as to maximizing profit. So the four agencies were created by the Britishers for this purpose. Uh, for this purpose they were created four agencies: the civil services, the army, the police, and the judiciary. So these four things are still working in India: the civil services, the army, the police, and the judiciary. This policies is still following by our country until now. We are also having the same four agencies such as civil services, the army, the police, and the judiciary. So this is the administration under the British East India Company. Now we are talking about the different major administrative services. The first one is civil services. Lord Cornwallis, the Governor General of the India from 1786 to 1792, founded the Indian Civil Services. That means that is Lord Cornwallis. He was the Governor General of India and he has founded the Indian Civil Services. Basically, the main purpose of this civil services is uh, to maintain to make servants which are responsible for maintaining the law and order, and for collecting the revenue from different administration in the districts of India. The Indian civil services has been described as the steel frame of the British Empire. Basically, um, they are the major part of British Empire, and they have played a vital role for the sustaining of British Empire for a long time in India. Basically, after this, for the purpose of civil services, for the purpose of allowing Indians to the civil services, an open competitive examination is going to be held, and yet the higher post in the civil services continue to be held by the British. For the purpose of lower post, they are doing a competitive exams. They are doing competitive examinations for the purpose of the post which were vacant in the civil services, although they hold the higher position of the civil services. The second one is the army. Army was an integral to the consolidation of the British Empire in India and defending the empire from rival imperial forces. Basically, armies were settled for the purpose of safety, for the purpose of uh, defense, for the purpose of defending their empire from the rival imperial forces. The Indian soldiers were also uh, taken in the army, and they are known as sepoys. The sepoys lives in cantonments, and they were given a regular salary to the Britishers by the Britishers, so they remained loyal to the empire. For the purpose of winning their loyalty, they are giving some salary to them. The next thing is, the next administration is the police. The British create police department to enforce law and order and prevent crime. Basically, they wanted to prevent crime, and they wanted to maintain law and order, so that for the purpose of that thing they had introduced the administration of police. And the police station is also the police station where these police are working are known as thanas. Each thana was headed by a daroga or a head constable, who in turn reported to the superintendent of police. That means uh, one head is appointed at each thana, that is known as daroga, and he has to report about all the incidents, all the things which were happened. They have to uh, told it out to the superintendent of police. They have to report it to the superintendent of police. The next and during that thing, the police played a vital role in forcing the Indians to obeying the British. So the police were also loyal to the Britishers, and they have to uh, force to the Indians to obeying the Britishers. Now the next administration is judicial administration. The next administration is judicial administration. So British arrived in India, and judicial system was based on the religious shastra for the Hindus and the Sharia law for the Muslims. So British started their a new judicial system that is known as Adalat, which was established where Hindu Pandits and the Muslim Qazis helped the presiding British judge interpret the law. Basically, the British judge was appointed to maintain the law and to interpret the laws. This court tried both civil and criminal cases. Basically, uh, in these courts, in this adalat, the both type of cases, such as criminal cases as well as civil cases, both were uh, triad. So the British introduced a rule of law, that is, no one is above the law, and the equality before law. Everyone was equal in the eyes of law. That means no one is able to be higher, or no one can break the law, and no one is uh, able to um, passed away to the law, and everyone is equal in the eyes of law. In 1865, three high courts were created in Calcutta, Madras, and Bombay. At the local level, a number of district courts, registrars, courts, and subordinate courts were established. That means there were there is a Supreme Court, and then after three major high courts were settled, and a different number of district courts were also there. Registrars courts and subordinate courts were there in the different districts. You can see the picture in which the sepoys are sepoys under the English East India Company. These are the Indian soldiers which was working for the Britishers. This is the Calcutta High Court, which was settled in 1860. This picture is from 1860. So that's it for this chapter. In this chapter, we had uh, learned about how British East India Company has been established their territory in the India. That's it for today's video. Thank you.